Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. With all of the issues that are going on with Trump and the fear in the United States, there has been some question as to whether or not a lawful permanent resident who's been out of the country is able to get back in the country without a problem. I can't tell you all of the people and former clients and present clients that I've had call me, basically fearing up and down that when they come back or try to come back in the U.S., that they will be detained, they will be deported, that their green cards will be taken away, that they will be put in secondary detention and so forth. And so I have to let them know what the law is and what can be done, because certainly there are overzealous officers at the point of entry. Not all of them, obviously, but there are some, and especially with all the new hirings that are coming about, some with very little training are going to be able to make decisions and try to make decisions to affect the lives of these people entering the U.S. So, for example, someone has been out of the country for, let's say, 10 months, 11 months, for whatever reason, and they're coming back to the U.S. Well, I've heard lots of stories about how they come back at this time, and the officers say, nope, you've lost your residency. You need to sign here, which is basically a document saying they give up their lawful permanent residency. And then the officer says, and if you want to come into the U.S. now, you can come in as a visitor, but no longer as a lawful permanent resident. Well, that is obviously twofold. It's not acceptable for the officer to be presuming that the person has given up their residency, and it's not legal. Okay, now certainly it's legal under certain circumstances for an officer to question the intent of the person coming in as a lawful permanent resident and to determine whether or not they in fact meet the requirements for this particular entry. Now, first, let me just tell you the law. Now, the law says if you leave with your green card, that green card, that lawful permanent residency card, will allow you to come back into the United States up to 1 year after you've left. And there are exceptions. I mean, you could, for example, apply for advanced parole, and usually that can be issued for up to 2 years. But assuming you have nothing issued and assuming you leave the United States, you are allowed back into the United States within 1 year. And, to make it safe, make it 364 days, you're allowed to come back in legally on that green card. Now, the next issue comes when you're coming into the border, whether it's flying, driving, taking a train, walking, whatever it is. They being the officers at the port of entry, will look at your green card. They'll see that you left, 10, 11 months ago. And they might jump right into their spiel about how you've lost your residency and so forth. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll prepare a letter for the client so that they can present it to the officer for two reasons. One, that the officer will know that this person's being represented, so they can't go on left edge and do all kinds of stuff they might do otherwise. Secondly, they're made more aware of the actual law and intention of the person coming in. Obviously it's not a guarantee, but if the officer knows that they are within their rights to enter the United States, then they many times will just let them enter. Now, in regards, just a sec, I think I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Okay. In regards to the officer who might press you when coming in to give up your residency, you have the right to do two things. One, you have the right to essentially say, I am not giving up my residency, and you also have the right to fight that in front of an immigration judge. So worst case scenario, if they want to put you in detention, which you can be bonded out, but if they want to put you in detention and fight the case in front of a judge, let them do it and then fight your case. Okay. Do not just give up your residency because some officer thinks that you should. Okay. Now the next issue is your intent. So why did you leave for 10 months outside the United States? Well, many times it's because you couldn't find a job in the US and you went out. Many times it's because your spouse had a job outside. Many times it's because your parent is sick and needs you to take care of them. Many times it's because there was property distributions outside the US and you needed to take care of the estate outside the US. And other times there's lawsuits going on of which you needed to stay and testify and so forth. So if you're going to leave for that period of time to make life easier, keep some property in the U.S., keep your residence in the U.S., continue paying taxes in the U.S., do all that stuff so that it helps with your intention and your argument of your intention when it comes to it. So that essentially is the crux of being able to come into the U.S. So, bottom line is, if it's been less than a year, they have no right to make you sign anything to give away your residency. If you have to, get a nice letter from an immigration attorney to explain why what your intentions are and why the law says you can enter. And as a backup, be prepared to fight your case in immigration court. If you've been gone more than a year, then you don't have a right to come back in with your lawful permanent residency card. Then that's an issue. But then we can file a petition to show you did not abandon your residency. And if that's the case, then we submit that to the proper authorities. If it's approved, the parole will be issued for you to be paroled in the United States. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe, and you can also call my office. I'll give you a free consultation, one free one, to let you know what can be done and the cost and so forth. Okay, more on the coming videos.